Welcome, everyone, to Three Nerds on St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day. I am hosting today because Jimmy is absentee, so you'll have to bear with me as I finagle with this crazy technology. But with me is Kyle Palladino. Say hi, Kyle.
Hey!
Yeah, you have the speaker. The camera doesn't switch to you. And for the very, very first time, it is not two nerdy dads today. It is two nerdy dads and a mom-to-be, a nerdy mom-to-be. Whitney joins us. Say hi, Whitney.
Hi, Whitney.
So you two guys got to go to the Cleveland Comic-Con, and that's where we're going to start on this St. Patty's Day. So tell me about all the fun and revelry that you guys had there.
I'm going to let Kyle talk first, since I know this was his second only Comic-Con.
That's right.
Easy. So Cleveland was my second, Columbus was my first. I was a guest of Nerdlockers in September, and I thought the weather was great for people to come and flock to downtown, although I don't know if flock is the right word, but it was busy. The weather was great. The Wi-Fi was atrocious. My phone died in like 3 hours on full juice. The crowds were good. I thought they were friendly and very nerdy. I felt like the celebrity guests invited a lot of Whovians, so people there to see Matt Smith or Karen Gillan. Michael Rooker was great. Who else did I see? Jason Mewes from afar. Henry Winkler walking a boot. A homemade R2-D2. Lots of costumed friends, families, all ages. And that was just on Sunday. I did not get to attend on Friday or Saturday.
So with this being your second time, what do you feel like you maybe learned from your first time around that you were able to apply this time, or was even the second time like you learned some different things now that it was the second time around?
Well, I definitely did not bring snacks, and that's a mistake. Standing in lines that move relatively quickly is it doesn't take a long time to see or meet with those that you want to meet with, but food offerings were decent, but could be better. So I think I learned to be a little bit more prepared. I think the Wizard World policy on bringing in food's pretty feasible for families or people with small children, so I know I'll improve that the next time. I had a little trouble with my autograph, so I learned to check things out. I came in sort of hoisting my paper that I printed off the interweb. The Google machine treated me well, but apparently I needed to redeem that for a ticket that said I needed an autograph. So I've been in the line for 1 hour and got up to the front, and they said, "Oh, please step out of line." And at that point, I sort of lost my mind because that was going to affect the rest of the sort of early morning, middle afternoon if we weren't able to get the autograph that we wanted in time. So I definitely learned those two things. Finding artists I thought went well, and navigating sort of just the entire setup was a lot easier after attending the first one and knowing where some of the artists that I wanted to meet with. Jimmy asked me to meet with Tony Isabella. He was easy to find, and I met up with Victor Dandridge again, and one of the gentlemen that writes for the Adventure Time comic book, who was also in Columbus, so I thought that went a lot better.
Very cool, very cool. Whitney, how about you? What was the experience like in Cleveland? Have you been there before? What's your point of view on the whole thing?
I have not attended the Cleveland Wizard World before, but in the grand scheme of cons that I've attended, I gotta say that this is probably up near 20, maybe number 20.
Wow.
That I mean, I'd have to really stop and think about it. But a large number of those have been Wizard World, whether I've gone for fun or for Nerdlocker or just anything in general. And
Jimmy you gotta say something, Jimmy, because he just.
Oh my God, am I in the wrong group?
Oh my God.
What's this group about? I thought it was cosplay.
We can barely understand you with your goofy mask on. That cracks me up. Oh my gosh. So Jimmy jumps in. Did he just disappear? He just left.
He did the right thing.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Edited
He
out that
just
V for Vendetta scene.
he appeared right in the corner in that goofy owl mask from the Court of Owls, and it just sort of what a goof. I hope he comes back later without his mask on. I hope he's feeling all right. But anyway, I'm sorry, Whitney, that I interrupted you when Jimmy just popped in like that. Pick up where you left off with that.
Yeah, so let's see. I've been to a lot of Wizard World, so I kind of, on the flip side of where Kyle was at, I'm kind of more of the expert, and I'm a little bit disappointed that Kyle didn't read the article that I wrote for Nerdlocker that talks about ideas and tips and tricks when you do go to a Comic-Con.
She just calls you out, I think, a little there, Kyle.
Yeah.
A lot.
But I don't know if you guys have internet in Ohio, so that might be a problem, too.
We have water.
So anyway, as far as Wizard World goes, it's a pretty standard operation. They do a good game. They know what they're doing. I think of probably any of the Comic-Cons that I've been to, at least domestically here in the States, it's the best run show. And I would say that mostly because, first off, you can buy stock in Wizard World right now, so it's a publicly traded company. And I think that you can kind of assume, for the most part, that a company doesn't go that big and that, just monstrous, I guess, would be really a better word, if they don't kind of have their collective poop in a group. So as far as, like lines and times and photo ops being on time, I think that they run a tight ship there, and they do it pretty well. As far as some of the things like Kyle was commenting on, like the food and things like that, there has never been a con that I've been to where food is really a priority for the Comic-Con. I mean, I think the best way to think about it is like a sports game. It's sort of like an afterthought. They know that they've got you. They know they can serve crappy food and charge outrageous prices because you need it. So, definitely I would encourage people to check out the policy ahead of time. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of things are sort of, even some of the rules are real bendable. Like, if you, hi, Jimmy.
Oh, hey, guys. Did I miss anything? How's it going?
It's going. I'm lecturing Kyle on all the things he's done. And I hope you guys have a long time. But, no, anyway. So, definitely look at the rules when you go, because if they say, you can't bring in food unless you have a health concern, suddenly get a health concern, just that day. I don't have diabetes, but I've read a lot about it, so I just want to make sure that I'm prepared. Being able to bring in your own food. But anyway, I was off on a tangent there. I think that the costumes in Cleveland, and I say this with a modicum of respect for Ohio, were interesting. We saw, I want to say, there's a game that my fiance and I play called Con Bingo. And after you see 3 or more gentlemen or ladies dressed as daredevils who, maybe are not the daredevil typical shape and size, bingo. So it's always fun to watch for the the things that you always see at a Comic-Con. Daredevil, a Harley Quinn who maybe is not a woman, which is fine, but always interesting to see. We love to see those.
Now, did you see like Daredevil prior to last year's Netflix?
Yeah, definitely. I think that Daredevil has always been somebody that I have seen. Good renditions of Daredevil and bad renditions of Daredevil have always been something that I've seen at Wizard World. I would say that it's probably one of the top costumes. That, Harley Quinn, Spider-Man, Deadpool. Yeah, that's about it.
Very cool. I don't know if I've ever seen a Daredevil at the I mean the only one I've been to is the Motor City Comic Con. So I can't say I have a lot of experience.
I'm misquoting myself. Actually, now that I think about it, it's I'm going to blame it on my pregnancy, and but I meant Deadpool.
I thought maybe you meant Deadpool, but then you said Deadpool later, so then it threw me.
So it's funny because my fiance is like right here in the corner, going, "You mean Deadpool?"
That makes sense. Now,
We're gonna have
Whitney,
to get a producer.
you've gone to a lot of these Comic-Cons, and I have a Deadpool question for you because I read this great article about people who dressed up as Deadpool, and this person was talking about how at first it was fun to see a Deadpool here and there, but the more and more you saw them, the more and more you saw people dressing up as Deadpool and really acting like a bunch of jackasses and being kind of punks and bullies and using it as an excuse, using that character as an excuse to just be a jerk. So I don't know if have you noticed that or?
No, I really have never seen any. And that's something that I have really always loved about Comic-Cons is that I have always seen Comic-Cons and always experienced Comic-Cons as a place where anybody can go who's into any fandom, who's into anything whatsoever, and not really be judged or made fun of or bullied. I think that there's a really low tolerance for that at Comic-Cons, and I think a lot of it is, first and foremost, because it's a family atmosphere. You know, if you have a 5-year-old who just loves Superman and, you know, Henry is coming in to sign autographs, you're going to bring your 5-year-old there, and it should be decently appropriate, or at least you should be able to explain enough to your 5-year-old that it's okay for you to take them. So I really think that the bullying aspect is something that I've not seen, and that if I had ever seen any experienced it, definitely would take strides to make sure that gets stopped. You know, whether it's bringing the attention to a Wizard World con person or whatever it was, just because I just really haven't seen that with the Deadpool. What I have seen, and I was saying Daredevil, but I meant Deadpool, was you know, like maybe extra spandex necessary. That was just it.
I've read a lot of articles with sort of this backlash because a lot of males were treating women inappropriately at cons because a lot of them are dressed in skimpy outfits or what have you, or even just skin-tight outfits.
Right.
And a lot of men were doing inappropriate things. And I've read a real backlash against those men for women, but also men going after these, in my opinion, idiots, very inappropriate, making the rest of us men look bad. But anyway, going after them to not do that. Because cosplay really is an environment that's supposed to be fun, meant to be fun, and frankly, those guys just take the fun out of it.
And I think you're absolutely correct. I think that they're really cracking down on making sure that, you know, whether it's gender or fandom or age or ability level, that's just not condoned. In fact, if you read through a lot of the con guidelines, even like on the Wizard World page, I think that there's a clause in there that says, like, they can just say, thank you, goodbye, you know, if they experience any sort of that bullying or just anything that's really not appropriate behavior, because they're aware that, you know, there are costumes that these cosplayers put a lot of time and a lot of energy into. I have a very good friend who is an amazing cosplayer, and she has like 3 jobs to support her cosplaying.
Wow.
And she's amazing, you know, and she does all of these just great, you know, she does Ursula from The Little Mermaid, and she does Miss Piggy from, you know, The Muppets in Space. It's just phenomenal. And she, you know, I talked to her once about it, and she said, you know, in the past there have been some guys who have made jokes about whether it's, you know, she's a plus-size cosplayer, so whether it's her size or, you know, a skimpiness of an outfit, and she says that she kind of just lets it roll because they're the minority. They're the people who are either uncomfortable or being just jerks about it. And generally speaking, people around her will say something to them because everybody else is standing in line to get their picture taken with her because she's that good.
Is this the young lady you interviewed?
Yeah, yep, Candy.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, she's amazing. I mean, she comes up with this stuff that just blows my mind. Like, she's the little girl from Finding Nemo in the dentist office. Like,
Oh yeah.
cosplaying her for this upcoming con, and it's phenomenal. Like, how do you get something that looks like braces? She's crazy awesome. And I don't think that people would put as much time and effort and energy that she does into it if they weren't getting a great response. If it was a mixed response, I feel like personally I would not be able to do that because I would just feel like, gosh, people are just not into this. I'm getting made fun of a lot of. But I think that it's just not acceptable at cons anymore to treat anybody poorly based on what they're cosplaying.
Yeah, that's cool, and that's the way that it really, should be. Is that kind of a safe environment, for comments and even, physicality too, because a lot of times you'll have pictures being taken, and I know I've heard of females in particular who have done cosplay that have talked about, inappropriate touching and stuff too when people would come in for pictures. So it's good that they're aware of that. And that you see that. If you haven't noticed, I'm liking this rivalry that we have going on we have Kyle and Jim are from Ohio, and Whitney and I are from Michigan, but I'm originally from Colorado, so I haven't ever gotten into the real fired up like Michigan versus Ohio rivalry like we've got going on today. Yeah. It's been great to be to see that in full action. So let's move on then, unless there's anything else that you guys wanted to add about the Cleveland Comic-Con in particular that stood out to you. Let's talk about
one thing that I love.
Go for it.
This was a really different Comic-Con than we've seen in the past for one reason, two words. Chris Hemsworth was there, and I think this was maybe. I'm not 100% on this, but like his third stateside Comic-Con appearance, period, since he's been a awesome actor, even before he was as big as he is now, in the original Avengers stuff and Thor. So he definitely brought the crowds. I think that I believe that he signed for like one day. He signed. Autographs and did photo ops, and it seemed like everybody who I saw had on the VIP Chris Hemsworth badge, which kind of like was crazy because they had released his name really late, like 2 or 3 weeks before the con. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Kyle, but I think it was
that sounds about right.
Yeah, and so it was just insanity. It was just like his line was so long. I almost think that, like, when Kyle said he had waited in line for Matt Smith for an hour, I'm like, that's a great wait time for Matt Smith. And then it occurred to me that pretty much everybody had spent all their money probably on Chris Hemsworth. And it was a lot of money because I think his autographs were in the 100, 120 range or 150, something like that. And the photo ops were insane.
Yeah, I thought signing was $199.
Was it? Yeah, and like the VIP passes were obscene, like in the $400 or $500 range, and it got you like a autograph, a photograph, and like a front row seat panel or something like that. I had the luxury of running into him near the photo op station, and was just sort of like googly-eyed, which I think most people who meet this man. Should be man, woman, vegetable. I don't care what you are, And my fiance also ran into him, and I feel like he had a similar experience. You just sort of, he's over 6 feet tall. I'm 5'10", so I'm not 5'10", I'm 5'8", so I'm decently tall. But you sort of look up at this man, and he's absolute perfection. Just anything that you could ever aspire to be as a man or want in a man, Chris Hemsworth is. And then he speaks in his Australian accent, and you're like, well, I'll go back to Australia with you. I mean, I know it's someone else's baby, and I said, to my fiance, honey, if he asks, I'm going to go. And he said, I understand, and the baby will be better off, being raised.
Well, I hate to tell you this, Whitney, but Australians love Cleveland.
I actually doubt that.
Wait. Where did you see him?
Well,
Okay, I'll just check it. That's cool.
And just terrible, terrible people. He said it was just like, ugh.
By the way, I said the same thing about Matt Smith when I saw him.
I'm sorry, what?
That English people like Cleveland too?
No, I said, my gosh, he's amazing. He's everything I aspire to be, and look at that hair.
Nice.
His hair was brilliant.
No offense, Kyle. I got to go with Whitney on this one.
I'm not saying that I missed Chris Hemsworth because schedule did not allow, but that guy's ridiculous. But so is, Chris Evans and Jeremy Renner. Yeah.
No, you would have felt that he is the perfect man. He is not just a god because he's Thor, but he is the most perfect creation in the world. Like there's nobody else that you can. I'm sorry, Matt Smith. No.
I think you may have created a versus here because I got a little crush on Ryan Reynolds even prior to Deadpool. I think we might have a Ryan Reynolds, Chris Hemsworth thing going here.
I would challenge you to meet those two people in person and then, measure the pile of drool beneath you, and whichever is heavier, you will have your answer.
Okay, you set that up. I'll be there.
I'm on it.
Does Reynolds do cons at all? I don't know.
Am I the scientist? Do I have to do the measuring?
I don't think Ryan Reynolds has. Maybe like San Diego or something like that, but maybe New York. I don't know. But he does a lot of like awesome things, like go to meet the president. So he's probably way too busy for us.
To be fair, I think he avoided them because X-Men Origins Wolverine was pretty something he'd get made fun of, and Green Lantern he'd probably get made fun of. So really,
maybe we'll see more.
This is the first one where it's like, woo!
Yeah, maybe we'll see him more often. Well, let's go and bounce to this next weekend, which is Batman versus Superman. And I know it's gotten a lot of press. Jimmy and I have given it a hard time on a pretty regular basis. The most recent trailers, I don't know if you guys have seen them or not. I'm starting to get, as a huge Batman fan, just the tiniest bit hopeful that it's not going to be terrible. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Morgan Freeman. Hope is a dangerous thing.
Who's going first?
Why don't you go first, Kyle? What are your thoughts?
I guess I continue to try and go into these blind, which I know is really different from the rest of this crowd, so that I have the opportunity to enjoy it on my own terms, which, for the record, I hated Star Wars. I was like, yeah.
I didn't think you were going to mention that because
who invited this guy.
Mute.
Trying to tell you, golly, a star that blows up other things, a robot that unifies everybody, a princess.
We're not talking about Star Wars, Kyle.
Yeah, we gotta stay on point. We have to stay on topic here because otherwise we're just gonna beat you up for the next half an hour.
I've tried to read some of the source material. I bought a couple of the graphic novels, looked at some of the comic books. I feel like I have an understanding of the direction that's headed, and I'm hopeful that it turns out better than the attitude of this panel.
In all seriousness, because Jason and I talked about this, what source material did you go to?
I'd have to walk over to my bookshelf. Batman Noel was one of them.
Really?
I was told that was on Internet Movie Database. I don't know how accurate it is.
Interesting.
Can I go look?
Yeah, go check it out, and we'll go to Whitney and see what she thinks.
Okay. So I gotta be honest, my interest level in Batman versus Superman is moderate to low.
Sure.
And The one thing, because when we saw trailers, I've really only seen trailers. I've not done a lot of investigation just because my interest is a little bit low. And if I told you who my favorite Batman one was, you'd probably excommunicate me from Nerdlocker. George
I know.
But,
What is wrong with this group? Adam West would have been more acceptable.
No thanks. Anyway, the point was, I, as the premier feminine voice here, have to cash in on the fact that the trailer, and it looks very interesting on the trailer, but it's just like, oh, we're fighting, we're angry, and then all of a sudden, Wonder Woman. And it's just sort of like, well, this looks like she's going to be joining them in, like, the last 40 minutes. And, of course, as the girl, I'm rooting for the girl. So I'm interested to see how that pans out. Because it wasn't titled Batman versus Superman and Wonder Woman as the moderator. So I'm interested to see how her part plays in, and I'm willing to see it to get the full effect.
Cool. I think that's part of where Warner Brothers is worried, is exactly what you're saying, that the non-Batman fanatics are sort of ambivalent about it and aren't that invested. And honestly, I think it goes back to the stupid title. It's just a terrible title, Batman versus Superman. And then you're right, the trailers just set it up as that. And if that's all that it really is, I don't know if it is going to be any good. So Kyle, you said it was Batman Noel was the one. So not Dark Knight Returns. They didn't.
That's what's
That one
surprising.
also.
Lee Bermejo? Is that who did that one?
Kingdom Come.
Is that Lee Bermejo who did Batman Noel? Is that the one I'm
Yeah.
thinking?
Yes.
That's a good book. I just never thought of that.
Yeah, it was okay. The part where he had the Timmy character running offended me a little bit, since he made sort of a big deal that he was disabled. As someone who treats kids who have disabilities, I thought, well, that's kind of funny. Hold on, my dog would like to go pee. Excuse me.
I think Kingdom Come is a great story, that book. I know Alex Ross did the art. I don't remember who wrote that one. Was that Wade? Mark Wade?
Oh, it might be. You know me, I'm the worst with names. I am so bad about that kind of stuff. But I know
Dark Knight Returns is Frank Miller, which the first one was amazing, but my lord, I don't know what's wrong with that guy.
Who, Frank Miller?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's wrong with him. He's a dirty old man. That's his problem. He's a creep.
It is creepy.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Okay, I hadn't heard Kingdom Come and Batman Noel thrown into that mix.
Yeah, I hadn't either. I mean, the Kingdom Come makes a little bit of sense because you did have Batman kind of going up against Superman in that one a little. But I'm with Whitney. I'm excited about Wonder Woman in it. And I've heard great things about the Wonder Woman solo film too, and I'm really looking forward to that. And hope that this Batman versus Superman, however it turns out, if it doesn't go well, doesn't affect the release of that film at all. So.
We announced that date, right? I think that's my birthday weekend again, so watch out for that party.
Nice.
Everybody has to come dressed up. It'll be a
Are
cause.
you dressing as Wonder Woman now?
I will be there if that happens.
Bond.
So, Daredevil competing season 2 with Batman vs. Superman. Nice move by Marvel there to release it the same weekend and steal a little bit of the thunder. Have you guys? How excited are we on a level of 1 to 10 for Daredevil season 2? Whitney, let's start with you since you're low to moderate on Batman vs. Superman.
I didn't know it was coming out this weekend. I have been recently preoccupied.
I imagine.
Some other things. I have also not watched season 1, so I'm going to gratefully bow out of this one.
All right. Well, you'll have to binge through that one. And if I'm guessing that your preference for superheroes is on an attractiveness scale because of your Chris Hemsworth, George Clooney, I'm just wondering if that's the case. And if it is, I think you'll like Daredevil because I personally find the actor who again, Jimmy knows I never remember anybody's name, but he is a very attractive man.
I did watch Jessica Jones. So
Mm.
I'm ready to feed into this. I really enjoyed Jessica Jones. I will openly admit that it was because of David Tennant, but it turned out to be a very good show. So I am interested to at least see the first season of Daredevil and approach standards by watching the second.
Very cool. You have to binge that first one in then, for sure. Now, are you a Daredevil fan? Because I mean, I know you get him confused with Deadpool, but other than that, like, have you read? Do you read any of his comics? How familiar are you with that character?
I have seen the terrible Ben Affleck Daredevil,
Awesome.
which is probably where I would pull a lot of my Daredevil knowledge from. The only true Daredevil that I've read was as a child when it would be silence keeps yawning. It's so distracting.
Sorry.
No more yawning, Kyle. It's late. It's late for him.
I have a test tomorrow.
Get a cup of coffee, man. Come on. Play with the big boys. No, so I would definitely say that my only brief encounter was probably the terrible movie and whenever he would do crossovers in the comic books that I read. So, again, I'm not an expert on Daredevil, apparently, or Deadpool. But, all those guys, red, they're all wearing red. Sorry.
I gotcha. And they both start with D. I do that. I actually mix those two names up on occasion as well. But I have to say that I think you will enjoy season 1 of Daredevil. I know I've had several non-comic book or non-Daredevil people watch that series and have been sucked into it. In fact, one of my students just recently watched it, and she's not into comic books at all, and really enjoyed the character development, the psychology sort of behind the characters and why they do what they do. She wasn't hip about the violence as much and had to kind of shield her eyes a couple times because it does get pretty violent. But as a whole, she was pretty impressed with the series and is looking forward to season 2. Jimmy, how about you, man? What are you thinking about season 2? Have you seen any of the recent trailers? You're stoked.
I'm stoked. I've been a huge Daredevil fan for a long time. I think Jason and I have talked about this in the 80s, driving on a road trip. Parents let me buy a book in a gas station. It happened to be like Choose Your Own Adventure Daredevil, and it was awesome, and I've been in love with him since. As Whitney mentioned, the Ben Affleck version was not good. But the Netflix for season 1 was amazing, and season 2, I actually have a college friend who wrote for it, so I'm really excited to see what she did. Her name is Lauren Schmidt. I don't know her married name. I'm sorry. I know it. I just don't know it off the top of my head. So look for her name in it.
Awesome.
And then we all kind of have a connection to one of the writers of the comic book, Tony Isabella, who lives in Medina, Ohio. So I'm stoked. Love Daredevil. Can't wait to see what they do with it. I honestly don't know much about the Punisher. So I'm interested to see how they interact. I'm glad he's back with Marvel because I think they can do a better job. But I'm curious how they're going to interact. And, of course, I believe we're going to see Elektra again. Again, not the movie we saw before, hopefully a different incarnation. But I'm excited to see her character included in this universe.
Yeah, I just saw the latest trailer was pretty Punisher heavy. And I have to say that it looks pretty impressive. The actor from The Walking Dead, you know his name, Jimmy? I always go to Jimmy for the names.
I just remember Shane from...
That's right. So that actor who plays Shane from The Walking Dead, I think he's right on the money for that character. I think he's brilliant for it.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I don't know much about Frank Castle. I read one of his reboots, the first issue, and it was great. I just didn't follow with it. But he seems like the perfect Frank Castle to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Punisher's an interesting character because, I mean, he was huge in the 90s when all that vigilante heroism and kind of the over-the-top violence started to be a bigger thing. And so he kind of, caught fire there. and has kind of fizzled out a little bit. So it'll be interesting to see if this kind of resparks that fandom of the Punisher. But I'm excited for it too. I think it's well written, and that's really interesting. I'll have to check out and see, your friend's episodes. Did she write for the whole series, or just like an episode, or here and there?
I know she was there for the whole series because I was following her on Facebook and just asking her questions, and I'm hoping we have an interview request out to her. She's got to check with Marvel to see if that's okay. But I was looking, and they don't have each episode listed yet, and she's not listed on the first one, so I don't know what she wrote. But I know she was in there writing. And it's one of those things where she might not care because she wrote for what was the President movie, or President TV show, The West Wing. She wrote for The West Wing. She wrote for Grey's Anatomy. So she's got a big name. It's not something she's necessarily looking to put her name out there. So I don't know. But I know she was in there writing with them.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool indeed. Let's move to some of the news that's kind of come out, and the first one that just came out a couple days ago, Indiana Jones #5 apparently is a go. When I saw that, the first thing that I tweeted was, what, does Harrison Ford want to kill off all of his characters now? Are we going to see Indiana Jones take one right to the chest as well? Or what's going on here? So thoughts from you guys. Indiana Jones 5, I'm sure, I know Kyle and Jimmy hated for. Whitney's been shocking the heck out of me with her Batman choices and the rest, but can we all agree on this? Can everyone come together on that Indiana Jones 4 was like an abomination? Or do we have a dissenting voice yet again?
Well, I want to say that I don't put it as the worst Indiana Jones, and I never have.
Really? You don't like Temple of Doom worse than
Temple of
4?
Doom.
Hate Temple of Doom.
Oh, screaming!
Whitney, where do you stand on this? Come to my side and agree that 4 is worse than 2.
You know.
Uh-oh.
I think that Indiana Jones has done a good job of moving with the times. So when the first 3 came out, I think that they were, definitely weren't fighting Nazis at that time, so that was not exactly, on point. But when they brought in Shia LaBeouf in #4, it was done as I think, a foray into the present to bring Indiana Jones into the, more present day, even though it's set in the past. But I think that they also, grabbed their fans, which, again, personal conjecture, I think is a Lucas, is a Lucas move to bring everybody back around by bringing back, his mom and Indiana's former flame, and sort of doing this like wraparound, but bringing it present. The whole concept of the crystal skulls was kind of like, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I guess I can't say which one would be worse to me. I think I have to look at the fact that we had, looking in and having your face melt off versus, oh, look, alien crystal skulls. So I think a lot of the ideas are far-fetched, but overall there's enough good material to balance everything out. My personal opinion about #5, when I saw that, I went, oh, so he's filling up his contract with Disney at this point. So, anybody chime in if I'm wrong on this, but I talked with somebody who has a Disney contract, and usually you're contracted in 3s with Disney. Is that, anybody understand anything differently?
I have no idea. It would make sense that they would sign people up for 3s, but
They've yet to reach out to me, so I don't know.
Right, to get your first sign. But I'm trying to do the math in my head. What has Harrison Ford done that he would need to do this 3? And is it Crystal, #4, then the Star Wars, and then this #5? Would that be, if I'm correct, if that's a 3 contract deal with Disney?
I think Harrison Ford falls outside of that because Indiana Jones 4 happened before Lucasfilm was sold to Disney, and Disney really had to beg and plead Harrison Ford to come back for Star Wars, and there was some finagling in there, and from what I remember reading, him being allowed to do Indiana Jones again was part of that finagling.
So he wanted that then.
Yes.
He wanted to do that one more time.
Very much so. That's his bread and butter. That's his heart, Indiana Jones.
Yeah, he's always preferred Indiana to Han Solo. I mean, he's always said he would always do another Indiana Jones movie, and that he didn't really care for Han Solo, which always sort of surprised me because I felt like the characters have a lot of overlap. I mean, they're not the same character by any means, but there are similarities between the two of them. So, but he's just always felt that way, and he wanted Han to die in Return of the Jedi, and so, you know, with coming back with the new one, The Force Awakens, it, you know, didn't surprise me at all for multiple reasons, but that one in particular. So mine was the same with Indiana Jones 5. I just was sort of like, yeah, I don't know. Is it Harrison pushing it? Is it Lucas or Spielberg pushing it?
I don't
Kyle,
think
how about you?
Involved. I don't think Lucas is involved. I think Spielberg and Harrison are the only sort of returning. Although, let me put this out there. Shia has worked for Disney before.
My son still watches Holes.
Even Stevens. So I think having him come back, we can see it.
Well, I guess my question is, hearing what you guys have said about, you know, that he really wanted to do another Indiana Jones, I almost wonder, will this be it? I mean, Harrison Ford is getting a lot older. Do you think that this may be, if he's the one who's pushing this forward, do you think this is how he might want to retire from acting? You know, is this how he wants to maybe go out on his career?
That's an excellent question. I think they said by the time, because they announced the date, and I think it's in 2 years that it's coming out, and I think they said he's going to be 77 when the movie comes out. That's pretty aged. I'd be curious to see how old Sean Connery was in The Last Crusade, and the action they made him do versus the action they're going to make Harrison Ford do as Indiana Jones. But you've got a great point, Whitney. Maybe that's his plan.
I think that Sean's 88, and that movie came out in 89, so he would have been 22.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the chin. What?
That was great. That was great. Yeah, I know Sean Connery acted well into his 80s, and I see Harrison Ford just as ageless as Sean Connery was. I think he could do it for as long as he can possibly physically do it.
Didn't he have problems with number 4? I mean, wasn't there some physicality, you know, some issues with his stunts?
I'm sure there had to be. I haven't heard much about it. I don't know if Jimmy has or not, but I know that just watching it, you felt the awkwardness. It just felt like he didn't feel like he had it anymore, and that they were making him do things that he wasn't comfortable doing.
I noticed it really bad, and this movie was after it, I believe. Cowboys and Aliens. He did some running and some jumping, and it was like, yee. Harry, buddy, it might be time to find a stunt double.
Yeah. Even in Star Wars, like I think he's kind of like running at one point, but he's more like sort of hobbling side to side instead of running. And I'm like, man, maybe just ask for some more burrito scenes, just like sitting.
Yeah, actually, after he broke his leg, I'm surprised we didn't see more of him doing that.
Right.
Right. Well, and he's always been what wouldn't surprise me if this was his last film period, is he is very much a sort of a hermit almost, you would say, very introverted, doesn't really, you know, thrive in the limelight anyway. So that could factor into it as well.
Cool.
What are your guys' theories on what this is going to be about? I mean, let's hope it's not aliens again, because that was just terrible. But what if you could write an Indiana Jones movie? If you could choose what 5 was going to be about, what are they searching for? What's the artifact that Jones is going after?
Fountain of Youth, clearly.
Nice.
Well played, Whitney.
If I remember correctly, I thought I read this was set in the 80s.
Hairspray.
Yeah, finding the hairspray. So I don't know what exactly, and even that I'm trying to do the math. I'm like, does that even make sense?
Madonna's virginity.
Well, never
No.
found that, dude. I'm not found a youth.
Or
The
you could just
Michigan joke.
Indiana Jones and the Crystal Wheelchair.
Oh. Is
Her name
Shia
is
not in
Whitney
this?
Hayes, Harrison. Okay, not the rest of us.
Is Shia in this one? I hope not.
They're not confirmed. They don't know.
Oh, I hope not. So, no real. I like the Fountain of Youth. I always thought that Atlantis would be interesting, except it would be underwater, so that wouldn't really work. Wouldn't really work that well. Kyle rejoined us. Kyle, any thoughts for an artifact that 5 should be, shooting for?
No, I like your ideas. I haven't given it any consideration. Going back to the Temple of Doom, if there was less screaming and less bugs, I would like that movie a lot more. I thought the rest of the movie was sound. It just was. Yeah,
Is it
Hearts and
what
hands.
Ohio is? Screaming and bugs?
yeah, that's the South.
I always just thought of 2 as 1 is the best in my opinion, and then I do agree that 3 is the second best. But I always thought I liked 2 because it was different than 1 and 3 in that it had more of a sort of Pulp Fiction, and I'm not talking about the Tarantino, but like the literature of Pulp Fiction feel to it, where it was this sort of it was a lot of a shock and the cliffhangers and all those serials that the original movies were kind of based on was a part of it, and it was a little campier than the other 2. I liked it okay, but I do agree it's the weakest. I just can't believe Jimmy thinks it's
And
worse
if
than
I'm not making this up, isn't it for the timeline chronologically? Doesn't it go Temple of Doom? The events take place first, and then Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then the Last Crusade. And
I did not know that.
because I thought that took place before World War II, when they were in India.
Whoa.
I'll have to watch that again because when the blonde is at the nightclub,
hmm
it does sort of have a almost 30 or 20s feel to it. So I'll have to watch that again and see if that's the case. I just sort of always chalked it up to, well, they're in, another country that's, where they're a little bit further behind. But I'll have to watch that. I never thought about
Whoa.
that.
I thought I've read that somewhere. Not to pontificate on a crappy movie.
Yeah, let's move on. The other big piece of news here is the Ghostbusters reboot trailer came out, and it's gotten all of the feedback I've seen has been one of 2 pendulum swings. One being, this is fantastic, girl power, awesome, way to go, and then, this is not my Ghostbusters. What are you doing? How dare you? What do you guys think? Are you somewhere in the middle of that spectrum? What do you think about either of those 2 responses? Let's go with Whitney. We'll go to you first since you're the one female gender amongst the 3 males.
I'm going to say that my first response is going to be there was not enough Chris Hemsworth in the trailers.
Full circle.
And, I mean, how do I feel about it? I think that I fall in both spectrums. I love the original Ghostbusters. I grew up on that. My mom tells the story of how one time she sent me to my grandparents' house and let me pack my own bag, and I had good clothes to wear to church on Sunday, but my grandmother let me wear my Ghostbusters uniform. And she was like, great, it's, I'm sending her to bust the hole in Ghostbusters. And so that was just like this big thing. So I've been a lifelong fan of the Ghostbusters. I have to say I'm happy to see it come around to women and let them have a chance to do the same thing. They'll never take the place of the original. It just, you can't have that happen. I mean, Bill Murray would not be the sainted man that he is now, and have us be able to replace something like Ghostbusters. But I am happy to see a female-centric change in things. My only concern is that this is being overdone, not just with the female Ghostbusters, but with some sci-fi right now in general, to overcompensate for a lack of female roles in sci-fi or nerdy movies in general. Not to completely switch topics, but we've heard a lot about, Rey in Star Wars not really getting enough credit for things. And I just want to make sure that girls, women, females, whomever, see that this can be a standalone and not just a compensation for having a lot, we have the boy Ghostbusters, now we have the girl Ghostbusters. I'm sure it's going to be great. It's going to be funny. It's going to be amazing because Chris is in it. And I'm excited to see how we can redo this outside of, the 80s that it was done in. So I'm excited for it.
Very cool. Yeah, I hear what you're saying on both accounts. Jimmy, what about you? What do you think?
I did a video, a trailer trash talk for Nerdlocker, and I thought I was pretty positive about it. In fact, I know I was pretty positive about it because all the remarks were, "You have got to be joking. This looks like crap. What are you, an idiot? What's wrong with you?" And I was floored at the number of people that just thought this trailer looked awful. And to me, I looked at it as this is the first trailer, so it's like a teaser trailer. It's really our first introduction to this new world. The things that sort of confused me were they open up with the city, showing a cityscape, and they talk about the original team saving the city, 30 years ago, but then they don't really show much of a connection to that world and this world later on, other than they're in the same firehouse, they have a similar car. I didn't understand why they brought that up and made us think about that, but then went to new stuff that really didn't tie together with that. That was really my only complaint about it. I love the CG. I know a lot of people automatically go, "Oh my God, I hate CG." It's like, dude, get past it. CG nowadays, you can't even tell the difference. And to be able to use paranormal CG and ghosts and all that fun stuff, brilliant. I thought that looked good. I don't know what the character's name is, but there's a super tall dude with stilts like walking through the city streets, and it looks amazing. I thought that was awesome, and that's CG. I think the cast is top notch. I thought Kristen Wiig and Melissa McCarthy, when I heard they were cast, great. Kate, I believe her name's Kate McKinnon. She's hilarious on SNL. I really haven't seen her do anything other than that. And it strikes me she's sort of taken on this Egon role and just sort of out in left field. Just the one point, she's doing the wig thing, that's kind of funny, but the one point where she like licks the gun, and I'm like, dude, that's kind of hilarious. And then my other thought that I thought was a little negative was how kind of weird, condescending. It's 2016, and in the original we have 3 scientists, and they get the black dude, Ernie Hudson. Well, it's almost like they mimic the same exact thing with 3 scientists, and now we get the black chick, Leslie Jones. It's like, why can't the black person be a scientist? I thought that was weird. I'm not trying to be PC or anything. I just thought that was odd that they would redo that when it would be very easy to change that up. But other than that, I thought it was good. I think it just got a positive outlook.
Well, and that's been my concern about it too, is that it's trying to stay too true to the original one when it reboots. It's like in the latest Star Trek movie, it was kind of the same thing, where they took Wrath of Khan and they tweaked it here and there, but I felt like part of the weakness of that film was it stayed too true to the original Wrath of Khan. I'm worried about this one as well. Are they just falling into the pattern, and the only thing they've changed really is the gender of the characters, and that would be a bit disappointing to me. How about you, Kyle? I haven't had you chime in a bit, and I hope I didn't. I accidentally muted you at one point. I don't know if you're still in or not. Can you hear me?
Accidentally.
He's like a frozen just face. I think we may have lost him altogether. I don't know. Or he's just really still. He's just sitting really still
Put it in
there.
a timeout, Jason.
I don't know what I did. Did I break it? Wait, he's back. Kyle, are you there?
I think so.
There he is. Did you? So for Ghostbusters, what's your opinion on the new Ghostbusters reboot?
I wanted to give a little backstory since Whitney, she was outshining me on hers, but just for the record, I still have my book that I ordered from Scholastic Books from 1983 that's in Ethan's room, and one of my first mistakes of showing him a PG movie that should have been rated PG-13 or other, where, you explain to a 4 or 5-year-old what dickless means. Excuse me, sorry, edit that. Sorry, JP. And it was one of his go-to movies for probably a whole calendar year was Ghostbusters 1, and then he also loved Ghostbusters 2. So when they announced that they would be making this movie, I was pretty excited. When they announced the cast, I was pretty excited. I think I've been swept up by a lot of the negative criticism, so to be honest, I've missed the trailer. Sort of personal things are in the way, but also not stopping my life to tune in because I've seen so much negative press about the things that have already been discussed a bit, and I'm just not feeling it. Chris Hemsworth does look great.
He does. Well, let's wrap up on this note in that I don't think we've been able to talk since the Deadpool movie came out, and I feel like that's going to bring us full circle, which is a nice thing to always do, and come back around to where we got started from. So if you've seen the Deadpool movie, give it a quick 2-sentence review. I want to start with Kyle on this one because you mentioned it, taking your son to see Ghostbusters or seeing Ghostbusters with your son. How did taking him to see, I heard you took him to see Deadpool. How was that experience?
Well, the crowd was full of energy and full of laughter. By far, he was not the youngest person in the theater at age 12, which was frankly embarrassing for the community, but he loved the violence. I'm guessing he didn't say too much on the ride home. He liked the story and the way the story was told. The parts that weren't family-friendly with respect to opposite gender, I didn't have to do any work. He closed his eyes, and it did go on. It did go on for a very long time. I thought, 10 or 15 seconds felt like a minute with the calendar and some of the other features. He got home and told his mom it was the best movie he ever saw. Now, the good part is we do get to a fair share of movies, and he's only seen it once and didn't ask to go back. So I'm happy about that. But he enjoyed it. I stepped down from my nomination for Parent of the Year that day.
Yeah, well, that's all right. It made for an interesting story and laugh on Jimmy and my account, at least. Is like we were like, really? I bet that had its awkward moments. Whitney, let's go to our mom to be next, so she can rest for the two of you. What did you get to see it? What were your thoughts?
I did get to see it, and I was certainly not as hyped about it as some people, but I was definitely interested, and I think that was due to all the spots and the feed up to it that Ryan Reynolds did for it. Specifically that one that said, "Hey, don't take your 12-year-old to it."
Yeah, I read that one.
Yeah, but I thought it was hilarious. It was a great movie. It was great because if you didn't know the Deadpool story, that was okay because they explained enough of it to get the point across. And they also just made it a movie that people who are not into sci-fi at all could go see just based on the humor, the interactions, the storyline that was, despite it not being a full storyline, was still pretty legitimate. And just the fact that I don't think any of us have ever seen Ryan Reynolds in a role like that before, and it was truly superb to see. I too closed my eyes during the opposite sex. Just, you know,
That's
solidarity with Kyle.
Well, if you have to bow out, we totally understand. But thank you for bringing some class to this otherwise classless production,
Wow.
as the mom to be of three nerdy dads second run. So thank you for joining us, and we hope to have you back more often.
Yes,
Definitely.
and we'll think of something to contribute as a topic this time.
That would be phenomenal. You should definitely do that. Jimmy, how about you, the resident Deadpool fan? I think out of the four of us, you're the
Real
biggest
quick.
fan.
Oh, she just left. I was going to tell her about my Daredevil review. But since she's not here, I'll talk about my Deadpool review. It was everything I wanted it to be. I've said this many times, and Kyle and Jason both know because they had it first. My Deadpool_94@hotmail.com email account, which has been around for, 25 years or something ridiculous. I love Deadpool. I think he's amazing. I was a little disappointed the first time I saw it because I was being uber fanboy, which is unfair. I didn't like his actual origin, like how Wade Wilson became Deadpool. I thought that was funky, and it wasn't anything I knew from the comic books. And I didn't like how they kept referring, we're going to make you a mutant, make you a mutant. And to me, that was really Fox being like, hey, we own the mutant term, we're going to overuse it. But watching it again, it's like, okay, fanboy, chill out, let's watch this for what it is. Really didn't have a problem with it. It was a good way to get Wade Wilson where he became Deadpool and the powers that he needed to have. The difference that I see in the comic books, and I know it's been retconned several times over, and they can do that with their Deadpool. She's got me doing it. Do that with Deadpool because he's insane, so they can constantly reconfigure his origin story. But the original one that I remember is that he was a soldier, and the Canadian Secret Service Weapon X program offered him a way to save his life. And he wasn't necessarily the smartass that we see Ryan Reynolds at the beginning of the movie, but because he went through this procedure and the healing element took effect, and it was still cancer in his body, so the cancer is attacking his body, but the healing factor is always healing it, he becomes insane, and that's what becomes Deadpool, the insane guy that we know that can break the fourth wall and just be hilarious, amazing, but still have a moral center. But I still enjoyed the movie. I thought it was everything I wanted it to be. It lived up to expectations. I did not get to see it opening weekend, so I heard all these people talking about how awesome it was. I was really afraid that was going to ruin it. No, it was still fantastic. Loved it. Can't wait to see Deadpool and Cable. I hope that happens.
Yeah, I have to say the same thing. Loved it. Loved breaking the fourth wall. Loved the self-references to, when he's on the magazine and the terrible action figure from the X-Men Origins. All those little.
When he goes to the X-Mansion, I love that. How come there's only 2 X-Men ever? I guess we couldn't afford it in the budget.
Yeah, exactly. All that stuff was great. My criticism is, if you know me, it's no real surprise, but I feel like the love story was just kind of, I just thought it was lame. I mean, it was the plot device to move it along. I particularly thought that the female character, the girlfriend, was your stereotypical prostitute with a heart of gold character. Was there to make the hero look better, and it fell into those sort of tropes that I feel are kind of dated. But like Jimmy, it didn't spoil the movie for me. I still really enjoyed the movie. I thought it was fun, and it was everything that it was advertised to be, and everything that I just did it too. Everything that Deadpool is supposed to be. So I was able to get over that aspect of it. Haven't seen it a second time because, it was. I didn't see it with my kids. I did see it with my wife, so there was a little bit of that kind of like, that's kind of awkward, but all right, because I know she's, there are a couple times I look over and she's doing this number, and I'm like, yeah, well, you knew what it was, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. If you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing? Get out there and see it.
Unless you're 12.
Hey, that is a great story. We all have our parenting, fails or mistakes or whatever you want to call it. So,
Damn, I'm like the best guy ever. I'm living the high life the last 3 weeks.
I was gonna say Ethan has got to be the coolest kid in school.
that is probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he probably was
yeah.
before this, but that just cemented
He's probably one of the nerdiest in school.
it. Which equals the same. What is
Yeah.
the difference there, Kyle? I
I
don't
was
know.
like, that's
I don't
cool.
know. I
Now
was just clarifying. I just wanted to make sure that your criteria were the same as my criteria.
Yes, even that transcends the state line between Ohio and Michigan. That rule there. So, well, guys, I think that wraps it up. Thank you for letting me host for the very first time, Jimmy. I don't know if I should ever do it again because I probably screwed something up completely.
I love it. I have no sense of responsibility.
And the flashing back between the screens, it's just tripping me out. And way to give me the hosting job when we have 4 total people. That made it a lot easier, I'll have to tell you.
You're welcome.
But anyway, until next time, everybody, I guess I'll point it to you two guys. Tell them what they should do until next time.
Have a nerdy week.
Absolutely. Have a nerdy week.
All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.